Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving into a conversation about relationship counseling methods, specifically the differences between discernment counseling and traditional couples therapy.
I'm really looking forward to discussing this. It's such an intriguing topic, especially when one partner might feel completely checked out while the other is still holding on.
Absolutely. So, many couples come into therapy with a shared goal of improving the relationship, but sometimes one partner feels, like they're already mentally packing their bags, while the other is striving to hold everything together. That's where discernment counseling comes in.
Right. So discernment counseling is geared toward couples who are really at a crossroads, isn't it? One partner might be leaning out and considering a separation, while the other is leaning in and still fighting hard to make it work.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that discernment counseling is distinct from couples therapy because it's not about immediately trying to fix the relationship. Instead, it helps both partners gain clarity about their individual feelings and the next steps, whether that means staying together, parting ways, or even just keeping the status quo for a bit.
Yeah. So in couples therapy, we're usually looking at a collaborative process where both partners meet with the therapist to actively work on issues, right?
Yes, precisely. In traditional couples therapy, both partners come together in sessions where the focus is on addressing and resolving issues, like healing from betrayals, navigating conflict, or even managing tough life transitions. It's a joint effort.
But with discernment counseling, the process flips the script a bit because each person meets with the therapist individually, right?
That's right. The intensive work in discernment counseling happens in these separate individual sessions.
Yep.
Each partner, whether they're leaning in or out, gets a chance to explore their feelings at a personal level without the immediate pressure of being together in the same room.
Interesting. It seems like it gives both individuals the space to really understand and, articulate what they want without feeling judged by the other partner's immediate reactions.
Exactly. It's less about trying to implement changes immediately and more about building certainty about, what comes next. Whether it means working on the relationship further with couples therapy afterward or accepting that separation might be the best choice.
Right. And speaking of outcomes, the framework provides 3 possible paths, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You either maintain the status quo in the relationship, move towards separation or divorce, or commit to working on the relationship with couples therapy and other resources, with divorce temporarily off the table. It's like you're given a clear roadmap to decide what best fits your unique situation.
That roadmap sounds really valuable, especially when emotions are running high. It strikes me as, very empathetic in its approach.
For sure. The therapist in discernment counseling intentionally remains neutral, which means they're not advocating for staying or leaving. That neutrality is crucial because it honors each partner's individual feelings while immediately validating both sides.
Yeah, I get that. Now, I wonder, isn't there a risk that by separating the sessions, you could lose some of the dynamic interactions that might be important in real-time communication?
That's a good point. But the idea is that after those individual sessions, there's time set aside for sharing reflections between each partner. So while the deep dive happens separately, there is still an opportunity for some cross-communication in a more reflective manner.
I see. And what I really like is how discernment counseling doesn't force change that isn't there. If one partner is emotionally checked out, it doesn't suddenly push them into couples therapy. It respects their ambivalence.
Exactly. It's not about making the relationship work at all costs. If you leave discerning counseling with the conclusion that separation is the best path, that outcome is seen as a form of success.
Absolutely. That's a refreshing perspective in a field where failure is often stigmatized.
Exactly. Success in this context isn't just about repairing what's broken, but about gaining insight into the relationship dynamics and recognizing the contributions, both yours and your partner's, on where things stand.
Yep. It almost makes me think of it like a decision-making tool rather than a therapeutic rescue mission.
Yes, that's a neat way to put it. It's like flipping a coin that's been weighted with understanding. You get clarity, and then you know which side is heavier, staying together or moving apart.
And I guess that clarity can also prepare couples who choose to eventually go for traditional couples therapy with a much better understanding of their roles and challenges, right?
Exactly, which then makes the subsequent work in couples therapy a lot more targeted. With the background from discernment counseling, each partner has a clearer grasp of what they need to focus on, whether it's addressing specific issues like communication or dealing with deeper underlying emotional disconnects.
Right. So, would you say that couples therapy can sometimes feel frustrating if one partner is already so disconnected?
Definitely. When one partner is, already on the verge of leaving and the other is pushing for change, the standard couples therapy process can actually exacerbate the tension. Instead of building a collaborative effort, it might just feel like two opposing forces clashing without real progress.
That makes total sense. It's interesting, though. Some might argue that even in such cases, couples therapy could help by forcing open the dialogue. What do you think about that perspective?
I get that argument, but I respectfully challenge that point. For couples already in such a polarized space, having a joint session can sometimes intensify the conflict rather than relieve it. The individual sessions of discernment counseling provide a safe space to air frustrations, which can then be more thoughtfully shared later.
True. That individual approach could indeed prevent the therapy room from becoming a battleground. It's like you're, peeling back layers on your own before deciding whether to lay them back together.
Exactly. And it's like taking a moment to individually assess whether the suitcase, or rather the baggage, should be unpacked together or left behind for a fresh start.
Yep, that's a great analogy. And it must take a lot of emotional maturity to navigate that kind of introspection, especially when both sides are so divided.
For sure it does. And that's why the role of a skilled therapist, especially someone trained in both the Gottman method and discernment counseling, is so crucial. They can guide the process with empathy, without pushing one way or the other.
Absolutely. It's also interesting how the article highlights that choosing separation after discernment counseling isn't a failure. It's a form of gaining insight.
Yup, that's one of the most empowering aspects. Whether you decide to work on the relationship or separate, success is defined by that newfound clarity. You either know precisely what you need to work on, or you have a firm decision that moving on is the healthiest choice.
Exactly. I like how that removes the stigma from separation, framing it instead as a positive outcome of an honest evaluation.
Right. It takes a lot of the pressure out of the decision-making process. People often think that therapy should forcibly fix matters, but sometimes the best resolution is acknowledging when things have fundamentally shifted.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is really eye-opening. I can imagine couples feeling a lot more at ease with a process that validates their personal experiences rather than forcing a one-size-fits-all solution.
Absolutely. Whether it's discernment counseling or couples therapy, the aim is to equip individuals with the clarity and confidence they need for their next steps. It's all about the journey to clarity. And sometimes that clarity means knowing when it's time to pack your bags, if only metaphorically.
Well, this discussion has certainly shifted my perspective on how nuanced relationship counseling can be. It's not just about fixing things, but ensuring that both partners feel understood in the process.
Exactly right. And that's what makes this field both fascinating and deeply human.
Thanks for sharing these insights. It's been a thought-provoking dialogue about how discernment counseling and couples therapy each offer distinct pathways, depending on where a couple stands emotionally.
Thank you as well. It's always great to break down these complex dynamics, and I hope it helps anyone navigating those challenging crossroads.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep exploring what feels right in your relationships.